It's that time again. It's time for another Saturday night special where we talk about everything rockhounding related. Hope you guys had a fabulous week. I had a pretty good week myself, and I have a lot of lapidary related subjects to chat with you about this evening. Let's talk about this guy right here. This is my rock that I, for the life of me, could not get a good polish on. I still have not been able to get a good polish on it. I don't think I'm going to get a good polish on it. It is what I would call an unpolishable rock. Now, not everything here is unpolishable. You know, we can, I'm going to take my, well, maybe not that. I'm going to take this thing, take my little, my wall screwdriver here. So these areas in here, where we just have kind of a more pure calcity, I think, and around some of these edges, can take a potentially good polish. I looked at this under the microscope. I probably should have, I should basically always look at everything under the microscope, but I didn't. A couple of people suggested it. And this kind of region right in here, or, you know, on the other side of it, we can clearly see that we have quartz crystal that is chipping out and well, it's coming out. Now, there's really not a whole lot of good options for fixing something like this. A couple of people suggested pouring in a clear resin and polishing that. I don't like that idea. I don't think I've never seen somebody take a rock like this and coat it with anything and have it come out looking good. Maybe it can be done. People say it can be done. I've never seen it. I don't have the experience with resins to be able to properly do that. Yeah, but since this is all kind of chipping and blowing out, it doesn't seem viable to me as a means of, well, it's just some things are not going to be worth your time. I mean, I can still look at it and appreciate it for what it is and be like, oh, that's neat. Like, the outside's very cool, but not everything is polishable, in my opinion, or worth the time that it might take to properly do it. A couple of people said something in the comments there that I was surprised by. People saying that they actually they prefer a lower polish, I guess. A more, let's say, matte to semi-gloss, and things look unnatural with a high sheen, which that is a perspective that I don't necessarily hold, but it also doesn't make it wrong. I mean, your rocks do as you please, and I'm going to do as I please. I do think there is a time and place for a more satin finish. I think some picture jaspers actually look better with a satin finish as opposed to a high gloss. That's my preference for that. Everybody's different. But yeah, so this is a no-go. That stuff's chipping out, blown out, and streaking in here, and it's not a polishable rock, which that's all right. You know, not everything's going to be that winner. That said, something that was a winner, in my opinion, these guys right here. If you didn't go and see the video, the production of my own diamond belts. These are still holding up great. They're, you know, very, very nice, very good to use, and I learned a lot. Now, the belts, great. I have my 3000 and my 14,000. This, however, is very janky, right? This is a very janky setup. It is far from ideal. You know, we just, there's a lot wrong here. So we have this expandable drum. Ugh, let's get that out of there. This is not the best way for this. Hopefully you watched that video. We're talking about the slow turning resin curing process of these belts here. This could be better design, like using just a board. That kind of, no, that's not great. The little synchro motor, that is really good. Ideally, maybe even just like a piece of PVC pipe, right, of the same diameter would be better, because this is very heavy. Even making something out of wood, perhaps, you know, cutting some wood in circles would be better, because this is I can't remember what this wheel weighs, but it's not the ideal option for that. I do think, however, it did prove the concept, which that was kind of the real direction that I wanted to go with it was, can I make my own diamond products and will they last? Will it be good? Can you save a ton of money? And the answer is without a doubt, yes. Yes, you can absolutely make your own diamond belts, and it really does open up a lot of possibilities for future things as well. It's not just a belt. These cab machine wheels. We got some 6s here, you know, and they're looking a little thin. They're looking a little thin in some parts. You can take that same idea over there and apply it to this right here. You can recoat these. In theory, you could go out and buy the cheapest wheels possible, right? Like the Amazon wheels, Baltic abrasives, something like that, and run them, wear them down, recoat them with resin and diamonds, keep on going. How do you think companies like Johnson Brothers or like that guy down in Idaho, that's what he does with these, right? He does it as a service. They do it as a service. You can do it yourself. Do it at home, you know? I think the process could be made a lot more efficient. Yeah, overall, very, very pleased with it. And I would like people to spend time and money not buying highly overpriced things and spend more time and money. Let's say you have to buy material, you can buy more material. Let's say you go collect your material. Well, gas is increasingly expensive. You could spend more money on that and less on what I'm going to say is an overpriced diamond product. You know, the possibility of experimenting with your own diamonds and resin is high. I mean, what about the recoating of resin wheels? Maybe. I haven't tried it. A lot of people commented that the initial coating on these could be done with no diamonds to save money. So you're just putting down a clear coat of resin and then to establish the belt, and then going back through with your second coat and diamonds. And then obviously from there on, you don't need to do a blank coat since you've established your belt. A lot of smart comments in there. If you do any kind of lapidary, I would highly suggest you take a little bit of time, head over to that video. I'm going to link it, and you should go read the comments there because people have some great advice, you know. I post videos like that in hopes that people will see them, take their own experiences and chime in with great advice, which you guys almost always do. Thank you very much. Thank you. And then I can learn from that, and people can piggyback on my mistakes, my screw-ups, you know. And we can further this kind of collective knowledge base that we're producing here, and everybody can win and come out on top, which that's what we want. Speaking of lapidary, what does all, well, I can't say all, dang it. Most forms of lapidary have one thing in common, and that is motors. Many machines that we use, they all run on electricity, they run on motors. Motors make our worlds happen. Now, I am always on the lookout for a good deal on a motor, because if you haven't priced out motors, and I'm talking about AC, single phase, like 1750 RPM electric motors, that would run, you know, you plug it into your wall, you run a machine. Well, or, you know, like 1/3 horsepower all the way to bigger. You'll know that they are pricey. They can get pricey. So I'm always looking out for some good deals. And I found a good deal. Let me get this out of the way. I found a good deal. Boom, right there. Check that guy out. We have a new Marathon electric AC motor. This guy here I scooped up off of Facebook Marketplace, and it is basically new. We have a couple of little dings in our capacitors on the top here, the housings of the capacitor, but the capacitor actually goes to right here. So having a little dent there doesn't mean anything. If anything, it's not the type of dent from it being dropped. It's like the type of dent from something being set on it. I'm pretty good at figuring out what's a good motor to buy. Now, I have a lot of motors out here in the shop, and they vary in horsepower and RPM and all of those types of things, but they all kind of stick with, they all have the same nameplates on them, right? So I thought we could talk a little bit about nameplates, because if you are in the world of lapidary, at some point you're going to have to learn a couple of things about motors, and may as well be here, right? So I'm going to throw up on the screen here a picture of this nameplate on this motor, and we will talk a little bit about what some of the different things mean and what you're going to want to look at. This is a dual voltage motor, which means it can run on 120 or 220. So, you know, that's why it says voltage 100 to 120, 200 to 240, basically 120 power in your wall or 220 power. The horsepower, 3/4 horsepower motor. Most lapidary machines run on 1/3 to 3/4. Like 3/4 horsepower can turn a big saw. I actually have on my arbor, I have a 1 horsepower, because one of the things that I've learned out here where I live is that we have more big motors available for cheaper, and they're just more accessible than we have little motors. So yeah, we have a 3/4 horsepower motor, the voltage, the Hertz 50 or 60-50 voltage. We have 60 in our wall, that's fine. The RPM, 1725/1425. So if you're running it on 120 volts, you're going to get 1725 RPM. If you're running at 220, 1425. Both are, great. We have our amperage. The phase is an important aspect. Okay, so the pH there, that is the other important number for you to be mindful of. Coming in your wall in America, you have single phase power. If you want to run a 3-phase motor, you need like a converter, you need a VFD, you need other things. And then the frame. So the FR on one of these plates, this is a 56C. So if you have a motor that is, if you have a machine that has a very specific size requirement for the motor, it will have like a different frame number, like a 52C, a 58C, I think it's a 48C, whatever. And they just basically talk about like the overall dimensions of it, so you know if it's more of a plug and play thing, or you're going to have to make some modifications to run the bigger motor. That's pretty much the basics. You also want a continuous duty rating, so the time rating continuous, and then there's a little wiring diagram on there as well, and you can use that when wiring an electrical outlet up to it. Couple of things that I've learned while shopping for good used motors: you're looking for people that have basically a backup motor, and preferably haven't ran it. In this case, we have the motor spindle here, and you can see that little notch in there. That's for that key, which is still taped on there from the factory. That's all good, very clean, stored in plastic, stored in a box. I don't actually have a good use for this. I could upgrade the motor on my slab saw, which has seen better days. or I can just put this on the shelf, since I got it for a tiny fraction of what this motor goes for new, and wait until I have another another project that I can use this for, which I'm leaning towards that. You know, there are, of course, kind of things that I would want to build, and I love building stuff. I love designing a machine. I love having an extra motor in the shop because it gives me this like point of to focus on, and I'm like, okay, so what do I attach this to now? Do I make a cab machine? Do I make a 6-wheel machine? Do I build a bigger saw? What do I build? What do I build? I got the motor now. All the other the pulleys and the arbors and the bearings and the ideas and stuff, that'll come to me. I got this now. Maybe it's silly to be like finding inspiration in an electric motor, but I do. There's a couple of special motors out there that I've been keeping my eyes peeled for, but generally what we talked about here with this is going to be kind of the primary thing that you're going to look for when picking up extra motors. These up here, we have a start and run capacitor. Capacitors store electricity even when not plugged into the wall. So if you screw around at all, be careful. Like I think there's, you know what, I'm not exactly sure with this, but these will screw you up if you take these covers off and start poking around in there. So don't do that. I mean, I like to have a safety third attitude in life, but I don't generally mess around with capacitors in that sense. So yeah, well, if you have any thoughts on what I should build next, I'm definitely leaning towards a 6-wheeled cab machine, a bigger saw, because I have a 14-inch saw, man, a 16 and an 18. Those would be pretty sweet. Or maybe even just having a backup motor. I mean, it's good to have a motor sitting out here in the shop. You never know when one might go south on you. And that does bring up the other factor, which is these motors, this type of motor, where it's a separate from a machine, you can buy these at Harbor Freight, Granger, Farm Supplies, Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace, Amazon, eBay, Automated Direct. One of my favorite places to shop for things here. Hold on. I like having a surplus center catalog sitting around. These are very common, right? You can find these. There's a reason why, one of the main reasons why I will never ever own a Cab King or like a Diamond Pacific cab machines. It's not because they're not good, right? They are good. You can clearly, those are good, perfectly acceptable machines until they're not. Until they're not. Then things go really south with them, you know. Having that shaft that runs through the motor, when that motor goes bad, it's not just like buying a motor and slap it on. No, the thing's dead. And a rewound motor is never as good as an original motor, and you have shipping issues, and it's a whole thing. It's a whole thing that you're going to have to deal with. So I lean towards end user serviceability all the time. Well, I think with that said, we'll leave this one here, everybody. Thanks for coming by, hanging out with me in the shop, talking about everything lapidary on this episode of the Saturday Night Special.